There was a girl that we'd met in Paris, Cassie Plater, the daughter of the painter Karl Plater. She found a small school called Chiron College that was operating with about 60 students on a very different lines to the other schools, the Orthodox schools. And she told us about it and how happy she was there and how exciting it was. And subsequently, at a dinner party at the house of the poet Tom Shapcott and his wife, who were friends of ours, we met John Welch and Philip Bentham, who are the founders of Chiron College. We got talking about the school. They explained that it was the studies wing of the Metropolitan Business College, but they were about to set it up as an independent, separate school. And they asked me and Charles if we would go onto their school board. Mm-hmm. The situation was that this school was growing not out of a theory but out of a need. The Wyndham scheme has put another year onto the school life of a student. This can best be used by bringing that student to university or other tertiary education or first employment 1 year more mature, not just a year older. So what Chiron College is doing is providing a 2-year school for 5th and 6th year and setting it up academically orientated, but with an emphasis on discussion, because the classes are small, and tutorial, and with an orientation towards human relationships, so that instead of rules, there are situations about which the people have to decide. They are helped with their decisions by the staff and by the honest and close contact with their peers. So instead of being told, this, you do it this way or that way, they are told, this is what has to be done, now what are you going to do about it, and why? It is the basis of bringing about that awareness of other people and responsibility for one's action, which is self-discipline, that's a necessary foundation for the best use of further studies and one's adult life. So we met these two young men at the point where their school was becoming a separate entity, and the premises which they had been about to take over at North Sydney were disallowed by the North Sydney Council for this purpose. So we had to do something quickly, and I found this beautiful old stone building. It's 2-storied, double-gabled attics overlooking the harbour at Balmain, and before it was decided, the moment we saw it, that it was the place for the school. It was the house for the dream, if you like. Now, the students who go there can wear whatever they like, and they do. You know, it's jeans and long flowing dresses, and it's not incongruous. In the same way, it's not incongruous that in this free expression way they are studying the old subjects. These things should not be incompatible, and too often students are leading one sort of life within the school and a totally different life outside of the school or within themselves. And for the honesty and integrity of the personality, it's important that a person at this formative age should bring all these things together and make a whole of all these activities. So now Chiron College has been flourishing at 69 Ballast Point Road, Birchgrove, for just over a year. It took us some months to restore the building. Dr. Nugget Coombs opened it last September the 1st, 73, and we are now ending our second academic year as an independent school. A lot of the character and success of the school devolves directly about the character of the headmaster, or as he prefers, because of its implications, a Master of Studies, is John Welch. He's an Australian from a sort of railway workers' family in Tiree, who got himself to the university to do engineering. Found after his first year that he was very interested in ancient history, approached the professor to major in it, was told he would have to do Latin and Greek, so he began at that stage to do Latin and Greek and did brilliantly at it. He also lectures at the school in mathematics. The man who is joined with him in this venture, Philip Bentham, had a different background. He was, had a scholarship put in his cradle with him. He got to the university to do, in a cherished family situation, to do psychiatry, but found that in fact he was more interested in, or was there to do medicine. He found he was more interested in drama and poetry and English. So he gave up halfway through, and he was working for a while in a psychiatric hospital with a drama therapy unit. And so from quite different backgrounds, these two people have a joint idea that it is important for a young person to find out enough about themselves so they don't make the mistakes of getting onto the wrong bus, which happened in each of their cases. John Welch particularly is a very practical man. He doesn't like to theorize about what his form of education is, but he knows exactly how to make it work, so that if whatever situation he arises, he will walk straight into the middle of it and deal with it at a practical level, and his tool is his own honesty. He's extremely honest about himself and his feelings, what he can do and what he can't do. And he then imbues his students with the necessity and the courage to be likewise. And that's an important process within the school situation. What happily is happening at the school is because we have seen it always as being a pilot school, not a formula school and not an elitist school, is that we believe that the sort of things that we are doing in that school are the things that should spread throughout the system and would make for better results throughout the whole education system. And in fact, the team of inspectors who've inspected the school this week for next year's registration have said exactly that they would like to see some things being done now put through to all state high schools. We have, for instance, from the education department, someone who's been to school for a term piloting a course of lateral thinking, that is, thinking in terms of images rather than rational, logical thinking. So this is the sort of thing we would aim at. It is very disappointing that so far we haven't been able to get through the red tape with the Schools Commission to get government grants, which we believe we should be getting, so that we're constantly in a state of financial disaster areas to steer our ship through these stormy waters. So that in this fluidity and decision-making technique, there is a lot of improvisation, and that is why it would have to remain a pilot school, even though some of what it did might be taken out and used in the department. It itself could not be taken over by the department because of the danger of an element of interference, which would stop the growing process, or the creative process, and that's all one can say, that it is, on behalf of John Welch, a creative process of education that can be copied but cannot be commanded.